This is Ryan Fletcher, and I've got some original founding people for the Burnaby Village Museum, although at that time I think it was something else. And so I would like to first do a round of introductions. So we have three people at the table here, and on my left is...
Name.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Barbara Copen, one of the founding members. I was a volunteer in the gift shop for 4 years. I did all the purchasing, staffing, with a dedicated bunch of volunteers, about 33.
33 volunteers?
Yes.
Wow.
My name is Betty Forbes, and I was here the day the museum opened, and I remember very well. They had wet paint, and it got all over my nice new coat.
Oh.
However, the mayor was here, and I looked after the volunteers. We had no paid people to look into all of the exhibits, so for a couple of years, I drew in girlfriends and people that I knew to help out in the area and in the gift shop. I worked in the gift shop, and one day we had Lorne Green come in. Oh, you wouldn't know Lorne. He's an old actor, but he was here making a commercial, and he was a great guy. Otherwise, my claim to fame here is my husband, who's long gone now, and he was in charge of bringing the bank building here from Britannia. So that was a long story, but here you go, Don.
Okay. I'm Donald Copen. I was a member of the 1971 Centennial Committee that was struck in 1968. And the first few years we were arguing, discussing what we should do for a permanent commemorative project for Burnaby. There were various groups had different ideas as to what would be appropriate, and a small committee of 4 of us got together, looked at all the submissions that we had, which were over a dozen, and came up with the idea of a heritage village typical of the 1920s, 1930s. The property that the village is on now was occupied by 2 large buildings. One of them was demolished. The other one was turned around and faced the Canada Way. It's now known as Elworth House. I was at the beginning of the museum. It was called Heritage Village. It was governed by the Burnaby, it's gone. CPMA, Central Park Museum Association. And I was the first president of that for about 4 years, and served on the board of directors for several years after we got other people to serve as president.
How was this particular location arrived at? What was the significance of here?
The location.
The location.
Of the museum. Brian wants to know how you arrived at the location.
Oh, all the properties here were owned by Father John, a religious organization that also ran the mission Catholic organization out there on the hill. The city had bought it, and the city owned the properties. And the city was prepared to put up several pieces of property, both on this site, one in North Burnaby and one in South Burnaby, and we chose the central part because prior to that, there had always been a great deal of rivalry between North Burnaby and South Burnaby. And so we felt that putting it in the center valley would be advantageous.
Okay. Now, when someone goes to the museum today, they're going to see a lot of buildings that weren't there originally. I was wondering if you could tell us what was originally on the site for the museum.
I don't know.
Okay, the original site was pretty barren. What is now behind me, which was a garage,
Yeah.
and it faced the other way. It was picked up and moved. Elworth House was a house owned by a man
Bateman.
by the name of Baxter.
Oh,
And
okay.
he was an automobile
That's right.
dealer
That's what it
downtown.
changed. Yeah.
All of the east properties were not here, and the properties from here, from this corner down to the
I'll have to clarify for listeners that we're in the Stride studio on the main street because
Yeah,
they don't
the
exactly
main
know where
street.
here is. They don't have the visual
Yeah.
information. But yeah, continue. Yeah.
well, the only other building on the west side was the iron, whatever you want to call it, the where the shoemaker is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
This church, the church was the 25th anniversary gift of the South Burnaby Men's Club to the village. The stained glass window in the church was a donation of volunteers in honor of one of the original volunteers, a gentleman by the name of Harold Carr.
okay. And one of the big differences now, I would think, is that there's a lot of staff here now. But from what I understand, originally it was just about what, 2 or 3 staff.
Two or three.
Yeah, maybe tell us a bit about that, and how did you recruit all of the volunteers and find the people to put this big operation together?
Well, they were in desperate need of volunteers, and I was able to step in with my exercise club that meets in the Swangard Stadium. And I said, how many of you would like to come down to the new place that's opened up, blah, blah. And so we got about 12 ladies to come down and help out, guiding people around. And, of course, we were only open a day a week or something like that at the beginning. 2 days we do? Okay. Goes back a long way. Anyway. But it was pretty down to earth. We even had chickens here. Did you know that?
Yeah, I've heard about.
Yeah, and Harold Carr, one of our original volunteers, brought the chickens in, and there were 12 chickens, and he named the chickens after all the volunteers. My name is Betty, so I had a chicken here. But that's the way we started, and of course, things went on from there. We were able to get costumes made by the volunteers. Barbara here headed up a little gift shop. It was very small, but it was very successful, wasn't it? Yeah. And it was right here where you are now, the gift shop.
Mm-hmm. In the Stride studio. And
Well,
so,
we raised some money.
yeah.
One of the events, we had a stall at the P&E,
Yeah.
and we asked people for donations of artifacts and money and volunteering, and it was very successful. We had a model of the artist's sketch of the setup here, and it drew a lot of people. We had a lot of exposure at that time.
I guess we had about 60 volunteers at that time, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We were just like a family. We even had gunfights with the young fellows until somebody realized we needed insurance in case something happened
Real guns?
on the main street.
Wild Western gunfights?
Yeah.
Yeah. Time up?
No, we got a few minutes.
Would you like to know what happened to the bank building?
Yes.
It was at
Yeah.
Britannia Beach for many, many years, and it was the bank building, Royal Bank of Canada, and they closed down the mine, and so therefore that left a building. And the museum got hold of the idea, and my husband, who owned a trucking company, wholesale delivery at that time, donated the effort it was to bring that building down. And it was a lot of work because they had to wait for the tides to change. They had to get a flatbed, and they had to get trucks and things like that. So it was quite an event when the building over here was brought in. Volunteers had dug the foundation so that when they finally did get the building, I don't know how they brought it in. Don, do you know?
Came that way. Came
The
off
back way?
street. Yeah.
After a
back
couple.
down.
Okay. But anyway, there are pictures in the building, and I have a nice little book all about it that the people gave me, all about the move. So,
Even wrote a book about it.
yeah, we could.
Now, so you're saying the 1920s and 1930s, that was the original intent. So why was that decided versus any other time period?
I don't know. It was just a period of time that people were not remembering. A lot of people knew.
This is the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was primarily before the Depression. A lot of us, we call ourselves, we were Depression babies because we were born before the Depression, and we lived through the 30s and then the Second World War, and et cetera, et cetera. And very little was known about the period before 1930 in Burnaby, except that there was the Central Park tram line and the Burnaby Lake tram line, and the Hastings trolley that went from Boundary to Sperling and back. So it was decided that, hey, there was lots of materials or items still around. Let's collect them and do what we can with the display. So for the first 2 or 3 years that the committee was formed, we were busy advertising that we were looking for artifacts that could be shown that would illustrate that particular time. And it's only in the last little while that we've expanded a bit. And I'm still really concerned that people are not keeping or saving items from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Because in 20 years, we're going to be gone, and people won't remember what it looked like.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, in the context of how you respond to, I think maybe the 1950s particularly, because you're saying people remember the 1930s but not the 1920s. We all like to remember the 60s, at least those who have been through it. So I think the 50s would probably be one to take care to preserve. That's very interesting to hear.
We actually had some volunteers at the very beginning who were born in the 1915 to 20, and they had costumes still from there, and so they would wear them, the top hats and things like that. So we were very, very personal, weren't we?
There's one other question that occurred to me, although we'll probably have to wrap up fairly soon. The tram is very central to our story now, and it sounds like it was important then. And my understanding is that the tram that we have now was also originally there, but it's not in the kind of condition it is now.
No, it's
so how was that acquired, or how did that come about?
The tram was acquired when it was retired from service. Was acquired by the South Burnaby Men's Club, and it was put on the corner of Kingsway and Edmonds with a very small shelter over top of it, and it sat there for 15 years or so without any protection and a lot of vandalism and things like that. And one of the ideas with the establishment of a village was that we would incorporate the tram into the village as transportation for that particular time. We did, or there was some restoration done on it, but not very much, and it sat behind the east wing over here for a goodly number of years, and the weather really got to it, and finally it was decided that it needed a shelter, a proper shelter, and when the city agreed to build a barn, then a couple of people decided they would raise funds for the restoration. The city provided a warehouse on Royal Oak by the SkyTrain, and it was moved there and virtually gutted and rebuilt. new there. The only thing that is original from the tram that was here was the carriage, the undercarriage. But it was moved from Kingsway here, and you think the bank building was a move. That was a move and a half.
This is what I'm thinking of.
And then it was moved to Royal Oak from here, and then it was moved back to the warehouse where it is now, the tram.
But it sat behind the ice cream parlor for quite a few years.
Yeah, that's what I said, the east end, the east side.
Right behind the ice cream parlor where it is now.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And if there's any parting anecdotes you'd like to maybe add about your time at the museum, I'd love to hear them. And once again, just mention your names on our way out here. So on my left. Oh, just say your name again. If there's any other stories.
Well, I wish everyone enjoys the village. There was many, many thousands of hours of volunteer work that made this event happen today. So have a good day.
Okay.
It's Betty again. I'm just delighted to be down here. 2013, a lot of years have gone underneath our history, but I'm just hoping that the years go by and the museum stays even better than it is now, which is pretty wonderful. Thank you.
Don Copen. I was the official photographer of the Burnaby 71 Centennial Committee, and one of the best days I had was the day the Queen visited. And I'm sure the RCMP, the people who were guiding her, were having a fit, because I was wearing my official identification and was 6 feet in front of her most of the day going around the village and around the city. And so the security people had a fit, and I'm sure they would like to have taken me and thrown me in a jail somewhere until the Queen left, but it was great. So I had all kinds of photos which I've left here with the village. I still have some more to come, if you're listening.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been a real pleasure to meet you, and hopefully I'll get to talk some more off air too. Really great you managed to come in today.
Long ago, there lived a mother and her son. The son's name was Jack. One day, the mother said to Jack,
"We cannot afford to buy even a loaf of bread. We have to sell our cow."
"Okay, Mother, I will take the cow to the market and sell her."
On the way to town, Jack came across a man coming down the road.
"Hello there, boy. Are you taking your cow to the market to sell?"
"Yes, sir. Are you interested in buying her?"
"Well, no. I'd like to trade her for some of these magic beans."
"Okay."
Jack and the man traded. Jack was so excited, he ran all the way home.
"Mother, look what I got for our cow. Magic beans."
Jack's mother became angry with Jack.
"How could you be so foolish? There are no such thing as magic beans."
Mother took the beans from Jack and threw them out into the garden. Jack and his mother did not have anything to eat for dinner, so they finished their chores and went to bed. The next morning, Jack and his mother had a big surprise. During the night, the beans had sprouted. They had grown into a thick beanstalk so tall that it was in the clouds.
"I wonder where it ends."
He jumped on the beanstalk and began climbing. And climbed all day until he reached the clouds. At the very top, he found a path that took him to the front door of an enormous house. When Jack knocked, a tall woman opened the door.
"Please, ma'am, I'm hungry and thirsty."
"You'll be worse off if you don't go away. My husband likes to eat little boys, and he will be home soon."
Suddenly, the earth shook with the giant's footsteps. Jack darted into the house.
"Quickly, hide in here!"
The woman picked up Jack and put him in the oven. The giant entered the kitchen shortly after the woman closed the door.
"Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman."
"You must be smelling the stew from last night's dinner. I'll bring you some."
"Never mind. Bring me my magic hen."
The woman brought the giant his magic hen. Jack peeked out and watched the hen lay one golden egg after another. Soon, the giant was fast asleep and snoring. Jack quietly grabbed the magic hen, but the hen cackled loudly. The giant.
Come back here, you thief!
Jack ran like the wind. He climbed down the beanstalk, but the giant was close behind him.
Mother, get an axe!
When Jack reached the bottom, he took the axe and chopped down the beanstalk. Down tumbled the giant. And with a mighty groan, he fell dead on the ground.
Mother, look what I found at the giant's house. A hen that lays golden eggs.
Jack's mother smiled and gave Jack a big hug. Jack and his mother lived happily ever after. Thanks to the golden eggs, they never needed anything ever again.
The end.
Hello, Radio BVM listeners. I have a special guest with me here this afternoon. And what's your name?
Hi, my name is Victoria.
Victoria. Well, welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
So, Victoria, where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
From Brazil? Oh,
yes.
My goodness. From far away. Wow. So what brings you to Burnaby?
An exchange program.
Oh, I see. So you're practicing English here?
Yes.
Oh, and how long are you staying?
Just for a month.
A month, I see. And do you find Canada very different from Brazil so far?
Yes, of course. It's like here the weather is really different from Brazil.
I've never been to Brazil. What is it hotter there?
It's hot and humidity. So it's quite different here.
Oh.
And here, even in the summer, there's snow. That's awesome.
And you know, all of us here, we think it's hot right now. But I guess not compared to Brazil.
Yes, Brazil summer, it's like 40 degrees Celsius on the summer.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, well, that's excellent beach weather anyway. I've heard about the beaches in Brazil. That looks like fun.
Yes.
Yes, well, your English sounds excellent. It must be a very good month of practice for you.
Yes, it was.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me on the radio here.
Thank you.
Yes, all right.